Well, guys, we're back. We made it. We went on a little bit of a hiatus there. I had a week where I was under the weather, and then I was actually in Mexico celebrating my engagement. So we took some time off to kind of recharge. But we're back with another episode. This is now episode number 16. The advantages here is we've got plenty of NFL talk to discuss. We've got week one recap. We've got some college football we're going to dive into. We'll talk about what we've noticed in the college football landscape so far and also make some predictions for this week's games for the top 25. And then, of course, we'll talk about Chicago sports. So a lot to dive into here. We're excited to be back, and let's roll.
Soundstripe.
Yeah, welcome back, everyone. Appreciate everyone that tuned in after the time off. I know Kevin had some things going on. I personally did not. I was ready to record every week. Kevin wouldn't let me record by myself, so we've had a little bit of a delay here. But no, in all seriousness, life gets busy. We try to record every week, but we're not gonna, if we got things going on, we're not gonna do it. So sorry to our loyal listeners that were waiting, but happy to have you back. And no better way to kick it off than the NFL season that just started. I know I'm excited to have football back. I'm sure you are, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are too. So kind of a lot to unpack here. I feel like week one is in the books, and there's nothing more exciting to do as a football fan than to overreact significantly after week one. So, Kevin, I'll let you kick it off. What were some things that you noticed week one? Anything that stood out to you, whether it's a team or player performance? Kind of what were some of your takeaways from week one of the NFL season, minus the Bears? Obviously, we'll get into that later.
In the spirit of overreacting, the Patriots are going to make the playoffs, and the Panthers might be the worst team of all time. No, I mean, the Panthers part might actually be true. Patriots, I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but it just seems like, and like you said, it's week one, right? It just seems like a lot of teams and even some of the stars around the NFL are getting off to a slow start, except Saquon Barkley. He had a really nice debut for the Eagles. But a lot of teams just kind of really slow right off the rip here. I know the Falcons struggled against the Steelers, lost that game. Bengals losing to the Patriots. I don't think many people saw that coming. So it seems like a lot of teams are still settling in right now, which is to be expected. I think these next couple weeks we'll start to get a real feel for what teams really look like. As far as some players that stuck out to me, I mean, one player that I will say I was surprised to see him get off to such a hot start is Baker Mayfield. He looked really nice against the Commanders. Now, obviously, it's the Commanders, but he still threw for 4 touchdowns, had close to 300 yards passing. I think he won Player of the Week honors too, but he looked really, really nice. And then, shockingly, I didn't see this coming. Sam Darnold looked pretty damn good against the Giants. He had 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. We know what we're going to get out of Sam Darnold at this point, or maybe we don't. But he looked really nice against the Giants. And honestly, the Giants have a pretty nice defensive line, but that's about it on the defensive front. And then I really enjoyed watching bits and pieces of the Texans-Colts game. I thought that was a really fun game to watch. Anthony Richardson made some absolutely ridiculous throws. He's looking to kind of pick up where he left off. And then, of course, C.J. Stroud is just C.J. Stroud. So I think that's a good place to start. What did you notice? Maybe some players, some teams that stuck out to you?
Yeah, kind of one common theme that I noticed, which, it is only week one, and perhaps things will start to shape out a little bit better, but it seemed like overall quarterback play was a little bit of a struggle in week one. And when I say that, I mean minus, I don't know off the top of my head, but I'll say about 3 to 5 quarterbacks probably threw for 300 yards or more. Everyone else was below that. So just kind of a little from a statistical standpoint, slow start for a lot of quarterbacks in the league. One big thing was Jordan Love got hurt on Friday night in the Brazil game. MCL sprain, he's going to be out. I think it was 3 to 6 weeks, maybe 4 to 6 weeks was the initial diagnosis, and supposedly the Packers are not going to put him on IR, which makes me think that they are pushing for him to come back as soon as he can. Will that be a mistake? We shall see. But I thought the Ravens-Chiefs game was a really exciting way to kick off the NFL season on Thursday night too. I did not make it through that whole game. I'm an old man and went to bed in the fourth quarter, and I missed a lot of the action there. But NFL's just got to be pretty happy with how that game played out, and a lot of back and forth between those two teams. So that was fun. Some other takeaways I had during the first week was Deshaun Watson might be one of the worst contracts in sports history. He has had every opportunity in the world to shake the rust off from when he hasn't played, and he has just looked horrible, to be completely honest with you. In every game he's played for in Cleveland, it's been a struggle. Sunday he went 24-45 for 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and was sacked 6 times. Now, obviously, you look at being sacked 6 times, you think, it might be offensive line. Cleveland has a good offensive line. There were some plays where he was literally just rolling out into a sack, and can't be too thrilled about that if you're a Browns fan. And now it's getting to the point where they might have to take the route the Broncos did and cut ties, admit your defeat, and move on, because if this is what you're getting out of a $230 guaranteed $1 million quarterback, you're better off paying him to not be on your team. So that was my big takeaway. 2 takeaways from the same game. Miami Dolphins, Jaguars, Tyreek Hill situation heading into the game was pretty wild. I did catch that video on Twitter before the NFL media picked it up. Tyreek Hill, I'm sure people who are listening to this probably know, he was detained heading into the Dolphins stadium, and he ended up playing, wasn't hurt, everything was fine, good and dandy. So he got to play, and then he had a pretty good day, but the Jaguars, they just kind of shot themselves in the foot. Travis Etienne fumbled the ball heading into the goal line, and it gave the Dolphins an opportunity to come back and win the game late. So kind of the Jaguars being the Jaguars there. But, aside from that, NFC North, not to get into the Bears too much, looks like a pretty dang good division. You have 3 teams that won. The only one that didn't was the Green Bay Packers. So I'm just saying that so we can have that out there for the world to know that we live in a world right now where the Packers are the only winless team in the NFC North, which means we live in a world where everything is right. So
we got to enjoy those days, baby. I actually have somebody from their team too, if you don't mind me jumping in that.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I'm really impressed with, in all honesty, and I hate to say this, but Jaden Reed looks to be the truth for Green Bay. He had 4 receptions, 138 yards, and a touchdown. And it's not even one of those things where, like, he caught a 90-yard touchdown, so 138 yards really isn't that much. His longest reception that game was 33 yards. So he looks really nice for Green Bay. I think he'll be a nice piece for them moving forward.
Yeah, he's got good chemistry with Jordan Love for sure. It'll be interesting to see how the Packers look for over the next few games, especially with Malik Willis, who's been there for like 2 weeks. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I actually picked up the Colts defense this week in fantasy because I think they'll probably have a pretty good day against him, especially in his first start. But Jaden Reed, he's been a solid receiver since last year when he started coming on strong, and looks to be more of the same. Other takeaways, rookie quarterbacks, less than desirable week ones for them. Jaden Daniels, he had the best day, but still wasn't like anything that Commanders fans would probably be super thrilled about, but he did have the best day, so I think we can acknowledge that. Bo Nix had a tough day. He had 2 interceptions, got good field position quite a few times. Wasn't able to finish some of those drives, but, all in all, it's just the first start for these guys, so don't want to read into it too much, but definitely something that I noticed too. And yeah, we'll see how it goes week 2.
Last one I have, another $200 million guy, Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, he struggled a little bit too, huh?
He only threw for 155 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, quarterback rating of 28.9. Not a good day. I mean, Justin
Steelers
Fields
got a good defense too, but still Kirk Cousins has been around. He's faced the defense like the Steelers tens of 20s of 30s of times.
Yeah. I mean, I would have
Justin
expected.
Fields, yeah. Sorry.
He looks like Justin Fields.
It's been a while since we've done this. If you can't tell, we're just gonna cut each other off every time. But I noticed, Justin Fields did not have an offensive touchdown, so Bears win that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's about it. Without going through like each and every game, I mean, there's some teams that looked like they should have. I mean, Lions beating the Rams.
Good win for them. I was a little surprised at how poorly the Jets played. I thought they would look a little bit better.
Me too, especially without CMC.
Yep. Yeah, well, apparently you can plug anyone into the 49ers offense and they're going to be a stud. I'm convinced I could get positive yards on a drive if they called me right now and said, we need you to play running back for a series. I think I could do it.
I'm telling you, I think I could get at least 5 yards.
Yeah, I'd just be like, just show me where Trent Williams lines up and I will literally just be behind him.
Yeah, and put me behind Juszczyk too. Have Juszczyk run in front of me, who runs in front of Trent, or runs behind Trent Williams, and we'll be good.
Yeah. One other thing too to mention, for week 1 of the NFL, there were just so many things going on aside of the actual games too. Dak got paid. He backed that up. He backed that up pretty well with his first game, a big win over Cleveland where they won 33-10. So good for him. I always felt like Dallas kind of had to pay him because they didn't really have any other options to win now, and that's always what they're trying to do.
Yep, absolutely. Do you want to move on to week 2 games and make our predictions for week 2?
Yeah, I do. I'm so ready.
All right. I got it pulled up here. I can run through each game, and then we can make our predictions here. So for the game tomorrow night, for Thursday, September 12th, we have the Bills and the Dolphins. It's in Miami. Who do you have there?
It's going to be a good game, I feel like. I'm gonna go with the Bills, and the reason I say that is I trust Josh Allen a little bit more than I trust Tua, and I think if it ends up being a shootout, which it probably will, you have the whole dynamic of Josh Allen being able to use his legs. I think that'll be a difference maker, and I think the Bills will pick up a big road win early on in the season.
Interesting. I'm going the opposite. I'm saying the Dolphins. I think Miami has a pretty decent defensive line that'll help limit James Cook, might also help limit the rushing attack from Josh Allen. But I just like Tyreek Hill in prime time, in all honesty, man. I think that guy just shows out every time it's a prime time game. So I'll take Dolphins. Now, let's do Saints-Cowboys. Who do you have there?
Cowboys, I think they win that game pretty easily. Not a whole lot to break down there. I think they'll beat the Saints pretty well.
Yep, that's in Dallas too. We've got Lions, Buccaneers in Detroit.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. I'm gonna go Bucks. I feel like that's a little bit of a trap game for Detroit, coming off the high of beating Stafford at home. I feel like Tampa's gonna come in and they're gonna pull off maybe a little bit of a surprise win.
Sean's on the Baker train. The dude wins Player of the Week. Sean's on the Baker train.
I got his jersey on the way.
I'll say Lions. I mean, I think they're the best team in our division. I think they're one of the top 4 teams in the NFL. So I'll say Lions.
They could win that game too. I wouldn't be surprised.
Colts Packers. I think we're on the same page here. Gonna say Colts.
Yep. I will go with Colts, and I think it's gonna be ugly. So I'll say Colts by quite a bit. But it depends on how the defense contains Richardson, because he can have a really ugly game too.
I'm going to say 31-7 Colts. I think it's really ugly. Jets, Titans. This one's pretty interesting.
It is, because we just saw what the Titans look like.
Yeah.
Now, it's hard to get pretty consistent, tough outings out of a guy like Aaron Rodgers, so I'm going to say bounce back. Jets win. Think it'll be close. Titans got a nice defense, but I think Rodgers is going to kind of will his team to victory and avoid consecutive losses to start his Jets career.
Yeah, I think so too. This game's in Tennessee. I mean, you could say the same about Will Levis, right? On a day-to-day basis, you don't know what you're going to get out of him.
Yeah, for one half, and we'll get into it later, he looked amazing. Other second half, completely different story.
Yep, absolutely. I think this is going to be the Jets. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to come out and basically just make a statement saying, "Oh, you guys thought I was fucking done? Okay, not really." Yeah. So I'll say Jets. This one should be pretty straightforward. 49ers, Vikings.
49ers.
Easy. Seahawks, Patriots. And this is in Boston.
I'm going to go New England. I think their defense is very, very good. I think Jacoby Brissett won't lose them a lot of games as long as he stays healthy. And Ramondre Stevenson, low-key, a very good running back. He's going to run that defense down. Yeah. I got Patriots starting off to a shocking 2-0 start with a win.
I'll ride that with you. I can get with that. I can get down with that. I mean, I think, like you said, like there aren't a lot of flashy players on the Patriots roster on the offensive side of the ball, but I mean, they looked pretty good coming out of week 1, so I'll rock with that, especially since it's a home game for them. Oh man, this is a battle of just two tough teams right now: the Giants and the Commanders.
Commanders.
Yeah,
I think Daniel Jones might be the worst player in the NFL. Like I'm talking at any position. So I think Jaden Daniels will get his first win, and I don't think it'll be too hard. But we'll see what the Giants' pass rush looks like because it's a good pass rushing crew they got. They were just shut down by the Vikings last week.
I think it's Commanders too. I think Malik Neighbors is going to have a coming out game though. I think he's going to have like 150 yards, maybe a couple touchdowns. I think he'll have a really nice game, and that'll basically be it.
He had a decent week 1 too. I think he had like 60, 70 yards and like 6 or 7 receptions. Like it's probably all of the passing yards Daniel Jones had.
Honestly, he had 5 receptions, 66 yards. So yeah, not a bad week 1, but I think he'll have a monster week this week. All right, we've got this one's pretty interesting. Chargers, Panthers, and this game is in Charlotte.
It's Chargers. Jim Harbaugh is going to bully that whole entire Panthers team, and it's not going to be close. Chargers win that game 3+ scores.
Dude, let's give some props to J.K. Dobbins. This guy had 10 carries, 135 yards, and a touchdown. He's battled injuries most of his NFL career, has always kind of just sat on the sidelines in Baltimore. He comes to the Chargers and has a really nice week 1. I'll be curious to see if he can keep it up all year, but J.K. Dobbins looked really nice so far. I'm going to take the Chargers there as well. Browns, Jaguars. I think we're going to be on the same boat. I don't trust Deshaun Watson at all. I think Trevor Lawrence has a bounce-back game. I'll say Jaguars. It's also in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm going to go Jaguars there too. I just think they're a little bit they're not a little bit better of a team. I think Trevor Lawrence he'll be able to outplay Deshaun Watson. And it's going to obviously probably come down to quarterback play, so yeah. I will roll with the Jags there.
Yeah. I mean, Browns defense
and the
is
Browns
nice.
Very nice, but they don't have Nick Chubb either, which hurts them quite a bit too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll go Jaguars. I think they'll put up some points.
This one's pretty mindless. Raiders, Ravens. Yeah, or nice try. Sorry, Paul.
Paul, you want to come make this pick?
Yeah.
That's my dog's name's Paul, and we always joke and say he's a Raiders fan. But, yeah, Ravens will win that game. They could play it on Pluto. They could play it on Mars. They can play it anywhere. Ravens by a bunch.
Yeah. You could blindfold.
I was going to say 50, but I was like, I don't need to get that aggressive right now.
All right, this one I actually like. I think this could be an interesting game this week. Rams Cardinals. It's in Arizona.
Yeah, another surprise of week 1. Cardinals looked a lot better than I kind of expected. Also, Marvin Harrison Jr. was virtually silent that game too. 1 reception, 4 yards.
Yep.
Sorry, they're playing. Say who they're playing again.
Cardinals Rams.
Rams, and that's in LA.
Nope, it's in Arizona.
I'm going to say the Cardinals win that game.
Damn.
And the reason I think that is because the Rams are a little banged up.
I was hoping you were going to go Rams because I was like, I'm going to surprise them here and go with the Cardinals, but I guess we're on the same page for a lot of these games.
Yeah.
And I think Kyler Murray is just kind of – he's one of those guys that, like, plays best when he's got that extra motivation or he's, like, pissed off. So I think he probably wasn't happy with how week 1 turned out, and I think he'll have a really nice game for week 2. So.
And not to mention, too, Call of Duty hasn't been released yet, so this is typically when he plays his best. So,
yeah. I forgot about that. Oh, man, do we have a shit quarterback game right here? We've got the Steelers and the Broncos in Denver.
Steelers win that game. It's going to be a gritty game, though, I feel like. Playing in Denver is hard. It really is.
Yeah.
And I feel like Denver kind of plays better than you expect them to most of the time. So I think they'll give Pittsburgh some trouble, but I think it's going to be hard, and it's likely going to be Justin Fields playing again.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be hard for them to stop him, and I think he'll score a couple touchdowns, whether he throws them or runs them in himself, or they score from Najee Harris or Jalen Warren, whoever. So I think I'll take the Steelers to win that game, but I think it'll be close.
See, I think the opposite. I think Justin Fields is going to struggle to run because it's mile high. And I know a lot of players deal with lung issues and lung capacity when they play there. So I'm going to say Denver. I think the fans are going to be just really hyped for Bo Nix's first home game too. So I'll say Denver wins that one.
Okay.
We've got an AFC championship showdown here. Bengals and Chiefs in Kansas City.
Chiefs. Bengals got a lot to figure out with their receivers. They're a little bit depleted, and we saw in week 1 how Joe Burrow can look when he doesn't have all his weapons. And I think Kansas City will win that game. And I honestly think they'll win it fairly easily. I don't think it'll be super close.
I do. I think it'll be a close game. I'm going to say Chiefs by I think it's going to be like 10, but because they get a last-minute field goal to make it a 2-possession game. So I'll say Chiefs win that one. It's also at Arrowhead, which obviously helps them out a lot. All right, Sunday night game, the one we care about the most the entire week.
We'll talk about that in the Bears segment.
You want to wait?
Yeah, we'll do that for the Bears talk.
All right, scratch Sunday Night Football. We're jumping to Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
We've got the Falcons and the Eagles in Philly. Come on.
Kirk Cousins gets it done.
Yeah, right.
Bounce back game for old Kirk, Mr. Reliable, Mr. Cole's Cash. He's going to be dishing out touchdowns like it's Cole's Cash when you check out. Falcons win. I don't know by how much, but I'm taking them to pull off a little upset here in Philly.
Not a chance. I'm going to take the Eagles here. This might even be, oh no, it is the second biggest spread. Oh, third biggest spread of the week. Yeah, third biggest spread of the week. That's 6.5. So I will take the Eagles for Monday night against the Falcons. All right. As far as NFL talk goes, that wraps about everything else. I do have
one thing to add we forgot to talk about. I don't know if you had a chance to listen, but Tom Brady did make his broadcasting debut. Did you?
I didn't hear too much.
Okay. I did watch that game. I listened to him for the whole first half. I honestly thought he was not impressive. Now,
really?
I know it's week 1 for him doing something he's never done before, but I really thought he would have came in and done much better right away. He got fixated on saying talking about how hard it is to gain 10 yards in the NFL, and it's even harder to gain 20. I think he said that exact phrase about 4 or 5 different times just in the first half. And you can kind of tell he was a little nervous, and I'm sure he was, and I'm sure he was probably pissed off with how it went. But I really kind of had higher hopes for him. I was really, really expecting him to kind of showcase his brain and his ability to break down football and break down a game and break down what he's seeing. Now, also, too, the game wasn't very good, so he didn't have much to work with. He was calling Cleveland and Dallas, but I don't know. I left feeling like it was a little disappointing, and I'm sure Tom probably felt the same way, too, when he got done.
I'm surprised that's the game that they gave him, to be honest.
It was supposed to be good.
Yeah, I guess. I probably would have given him like Texans Colts or even like Jaguars Dolphins. I think that could have been a fun game for him, but that's interesting. I'll have to make sure I listen to this coming week's game, whatever game he's helping call, because he's probably going to be the color commentator, I would think, rather than play-by-play. But I'll have to take a listen. All right, let's jump to college football. Let's start with week 2 recap. I'll let you kind of take the reins on recapping week 2 since I went through the NFL. I'll let you start with college football.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting week in college football. A couple of upsets, and I think none bigger than the one we can kick things off with, where the Northern Illinois Huskies pulled off a shocker.
Love it.
And beat Notre Dame. Not only did they beat Notre Dame, I'm pretty sure they were leading that whole entire game.
I'm looking at the box score. It looks like that could be the case. First quarter was 10-7. Second was 3-0. Third quarter, Notre Dame might have taken the lead. Yeah, they were up 14-13, and then Northern Illinois kicked the field goal to win it, basically.
Yeah, just after Notre Dame's coming off a win over Texas A&M, looking like they might, be a pretty good team this year. They revert back to Notre Dame, where they always have, for whatever reason, just such a horrible loss on their schedule. And their schedule's generally easy for the most part. But yeah, it just pretty crazy. Northern Illinois' coach had a pretty emotional moment after the game, which was cool to see. Just talking about how much he loves his team. I believe he was a player at Northern Illinois too.
He was.
So just seeing a guy like that who truly knows what it's like to play in those games and be a part of a team that, granted you get paid, but you get paid to get beat up. Like, that's not fun. For him to be able to coach a team through probably, I don't know much about Northern Illinois football history, but I'm going to say it, maybe the biggest win in school history. Like,
that's their only win against a ranked opponent.
Okay, so there it is. So that's pretty cool to see him, show all that emotion and get to be a part of something that was really, really special. So was definitely happy for him and Northern Illinois. What a win that just, I was watching a lot of that game, and the whole time I was like, this is unbelievable, but when is Notre Dame just going to take over? And they never did.
Same, and it was in South Bend too. It's not like they went to Northern Illinois and Northern Illinois had like a crowd or whatnot. But just honestly, it was just like a blue collar, nitty gritty type of game for them, because the final score was only 16-14. It wasn't a high scoring game by any means, but just a really scrappy game by Northern Illinois. And I mean, being a Miami fan, I always love to see Notre Dame lose, so I was happy with it. But just a really, really cool story. I mean, I was happy for them, being born and raised in Chicago. You know how small of a school that is. And we don't really have a big college football presence anyways. So
it's Notre Dame.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So the effect that has on the city, obviously Chicagoland's gonna appreciate that the ones that aren't Notre Dame fans. So yeah, I was happy about that.
Yeah, so I think that obviously was the biggest headline from this weekend, but keeping up with the theme of what a weekend for Illinois. University of Illinois knocked off number 19 Kansas 23-17. Yeah. Granted, not a huge upset, but still an upset nonetheless. So Illinois is off to a 2-0 start this year. That's good for them. Another big game here that I kind of felt was going to go this way was Michigan and Texas. Dude. I felt like Texas was the much better team going into that, and I also felt like Michigan's kind of a fraud. Like, they won the national championship. They have to be ranked high. I get it, but they are not worthy of being ranked where they were. Texas went into the big house and just completely exposed Michigan.
Yeah. I mean, Michigan's struggling with quarterback play right now, right? I'm pretty sure the guy that they started, I want to say he was a walk-on. And then they have Orgy, I think his name is.
Nope, it's Orgy.
He basically is just like a running quarterback. He doesn't really throw the ball too much. So I think they're going to struggle a lot of this year just because it doesn't seem like their quarterback play is going to be up to par.
Yeah, and I think, if you're a Michigan fan, it sucks to lose that game, but at least, I don't know. I would be like, well, I kind of know what to expect the rest of the way. Obviously, you always want to beat Ohio State. That's probably not going to happen this year. And it kind of at least levels your expectations a little bit, or at least it would for me if I was a Michigan fan, but I'm not. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that was not surprised, but good for Texas. Obviously, that's a big win for them.
Yeah.
Especially the fact that it's on the road. They were the higher ranked team. Probably should have won that game no matter what, but they really made a good statement there by going in and just beating the brakes off Michigan. So,
yep.
Speaking of ranked teams that were struggling a little bit, but ended up winning, Oregon squeaked one out over Boise State. 34-37 was the final, and I'll tell you what, as someone who was all in on the Oregon Ducks before the year, they have not looked good through 2 weeks so far.
Dylan Gabriel specifically hasn't looked that great. And of course, you've got Ashton Genty, the running back for Boise State. Dude, this guy is awesome. 25 carries, 192 yards, 3 touchdowns. Just dominant performance. I thought Boise State was going to pull it away for a little bit. I tuned into, I think it was the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. Just kind of hoping they would pull away, but it was a good game. Oregon does not look nearly as dominant as we thought they would. And again, it's 2 weeks. It's still early. Yep. They could get it together, but I will say, man, I don't think Dylan Gabriel's looking all that impressive right now.
No, and just to put it into perspective for our listeners out there, week 1, Oregon played Idaho, and they won that game 24-14. So
yeah,
you're talking playing Boise State and Idaho and beating them by a combined 13 points. That is not exciting if you're an Oregon fan, and definitely not the way you want to start the year. But that was another big takeaway I had, is just another week of Oregon struggling. But we'll see if they bounce back. Penn State ended up beating Bowling Green 34-27. Bowling Green led for a lot of that first half, so Penn State had a pretty good week 1, and then they kind of came back to reality for week 2. So a little bit of a struggles there, but they ended up pulling that off. I don't know if you had anything to add about that game. Or
a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. I actually want to jump back in the rankings a little bit here, talk about Ole Miss. Ole Miss has looked really nice through 2 games. They won a game should have won, right? We look at the Penn State game against Bowling Green. This is how that game should have gone. Ole Miss beat Middle Tennessee 52-3. Henry Parrish, kind of an interesting story there. He's actually a former Hurricane, but also formerly at Ole Miss. So he transferred from Ole Miss to Miami back to Ole Miss. He had 14 carries, 165 yards, and 4 touchdowns that game. Jackson Dart has looked really nice through 2 games so far. He's almost at 800 passing yards already, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. So he's starting to kind of insert his name into the Heisman race here. But I really like what I've seen from Ole Miss so far.
Yeah, they've been putting up points, and they've been granted they've played some pretty inferior opponents, but they've been keeping them quiet too. Their defense has been playing pretty well, so good for them. Let's see who else we got here. How did you want to talk about Miami? They got off to another pretty convincing win here, so that's 2 to start the year.
Yeah, not really much to talk about here. It's Florida A&M. They handled business. They did what they needed to. They won 56-9. Cam Ward looked really nice. He had a SportsCenter top 10 play where he dove into the end zone, kind of looked like Superman. So that was cool. But it's Florida A&M, man. You should beat the shit out of them, and they did. So that's really it.
Not to go game by game, but other takeaways: USC blew out Utah State. They're running with their momentum they have from the win over LSU. Tennessee put up 50 points. They look really, really good this year so far too.
Against a ranked NC State team too, 51-10. That was a big game.
Oklahoma squeaked past 0-2 Houston, 16-12. So pretty tough game for them.
Yep.
But besides that, really, Kansas State had a slugfest against Tulane, 17 Kansas State. They look like they might be a pretty decent team. They got a first-year starter at quarterback there, and they've got 2 pretty good wins so far. One other team I want to mention is Arizona. It was a tough one against Northern Arizona. They struggled early on. I don't know if you kept up with how that game went early on. They ended up winning 22-10, but kind of a tough start after lighting the world on fire in week 1.
I was kind of like box score watching, right? Just because I know NAU is not that great, and for people not from Arizona, NAU is Northern Arizona. Just box score watching the game, trying to see how Fafita was going to do, McMillan, and neither one of them. Yeah, neither one of them really dominated that game like they should have. But who knows, man? I mean, this is the first time in a really long time that Arizona's had this kind of spotlight. So maybe that's affecting the team a little bit, and they're trying to figure out how to be a top 20 team. And they've got a pretty big opponent this week. We'll dive into that when we do our predictions. But I wasn't really impressed by their game against NAU.
That about wraps up everything I kind of wanted to cover there from week 2. Any other games you wanted to mention or talk about?
I think Cade Klubnik had a good bounce back game. He threw for almost 400 yards, had 5 touchdowns against Appalachian State. They're not great this year, Appalachian State, but they do have a good history of playing the spoiler. So, pretty good win for Clemson there. But I think that's about it. Ohio State obviously beat the shit out of Western Michigan. Jeremiah Smith had 5 receptions, 120 yards, and a touchdown. So it's nice to see him already start to dominate the scene as a freshman wide receiver.
Do you like seeing that?
Yeah, dude, he's so entertaining to watch. But
he was maybe a Miami commit, maybe a Florida commit, and he's at Ohio State now. So
yeah, we were never going to land him. I didn't really buy into that, but I don't know. Maybe there was more optimism than I felt, but yeah, he's going to tear up the scene this year and next year, and
he'll be the first wide receiver taken in his draft whenever that time comes around.
Easily. All right, let's make the jump to making some predictions for top 25 for this week's slate. I can run through them if you want. I've kind of got them in order here, not based on rankings, but based on when the games are.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. So this Friday, this is the one that I was talking about. So we've got University of Arizona against Kansas State. This is at Kansas State. So it's a numbered 20 ranked team versus a 14th ranked team in Kansas State. Who do you have?
I'm going to go Kansas State, and I'm going to mainly pick them because they're at home. I do think Arizona's offense will give them some trouble. They haven't seen an offense quite like what Arizona can do, but home crowd, home factor, I'm going to take Kansas State in that one.
Yeah, I mean, look, college football is all about momentum, right? Arizona, not great momentum going into this game. If they beat the shit out of NAU, I think I'd be picking Arizona here, but for that reason, I'm going to take Kansas State. They've got a lot of great momentum going into this week, so I'll take Kansas State. Saturday games. So we have Ball State against Miami. It's in Miami, and the spread's 36.5, so choose wisely.
A little bit of Saturday action, huh? No, Miami will win that game. Ball State's like bottom feeders of the MAC, so not that a MAC team would be able to pull off a win like that. I say that as Northern Illinois' MAC team, and I just realized that. But I think the MAC had their magic for the year. I don't think there will be another big win like that.
Yeah, and I mean it's a home game for Miami. I'm sure.
I wouldn't be mad if they did, but I don't think it'll happen.
I'm sure 100 people will show up to that game and make it really hard for Ball State. All right, we've got Alabama versus Wisconsin in Madison.
Alabama by like 20 plus.
Yeah, Tyler Van Dyke is a fake. Alabama all the way. All right, next game we've got Oklahoma State and Tulsa in Tulsa. Don't.
I'm gonna go Tulsa.
You're out of your mind.
I'm gonna go Tulsa, and I'm gonna go Tulsa because Oklahoma State barely skated by last week, and I think they're gonna get knocked off this time.
They're better without DJ. I'm going to say Oklahoma State. They've also got a really nice running back in Allie Gordon.
Yeah.
He's pretty dominant.
Negative yards. Tulsa's defense is something they've never seen.
He'll probably run for like 400.
Probably.
We've got LSU in South Carolina. This is in Columbia, South Carolina.
Ooh, first road test for LSU. I'm sticking with them, though. I think LSU wins. Nussmeier looks like a pretty damn good quarterback for them, so I think they'll get the job done.
Here's my upset. I'm saying South Carolina is going to win this game. They're 2-0 going into this game. It's a home game. I mean, Nussmeier does look really nice. He's got 8 touchdowns and 1 interception, but South Carolina is usually good for an upset or almost pulling off an upset every year, so I think this could be one of those games. Now, we're going to laugh about this, but we actually have to have this conversation. We've got University of Michigan against Arkansas State, who's 2-0, and it's in Ann Arbor.
I got Michigan bouncing back and winning that game.
I'm going to say for fun purposes, I'll say Arkansas State.
All right.
Here's kind of an interesting one with just like really gritty teams. We've got Boston College and Missouri, and it's at Mizzou.
I got Boston College winning that game.
Dude, I kind of like what I've seen from Boston College so far.
I love what I've seen from them this year.
Same. Now, I will say we haven't seen quarterback play out of Mizzou like we thought we would so far. So
yeah,
that makes me kind of lean Boston College as well. So I'll go with you on that. I'll say Boston College, another upset this year against a top 10 team because Mizzou's ranked 6th overall right now.
Probably a little overrated there, but you can't control what they rank you.
Yeah, it's this the Luther Burden effect. All right, we've got an in-state rival here. So we have Oregon and Oregon State. It's in Corvallis, which means it's at Oregon State.
I'm going to take Oregon here.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna right the ship this week. I think they'll pick up a pretty big win.
The spread's 16, so they should. I'll take Oregon as well. Now we have Tulane versus Oklahoma. This is at Oklahoma. This one should be pretty straightforward. I think it's going to be Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma will win that game as well.
Notre Dame and Purdue at Purdue.
Notre Dame should beat Purdue. I think they'll win that game.
Purdue's 1-0, bro. Come on, have some hope.
It's big brother, little brother, though.
Yeah, it is. Utah versus Utah State. It's in Logan, which I don't know which team is located in Logan, but Utah's 12th ranked overall. Utah State is unranked.
Utah wins.
Yeah.
Fairly easily.
Yeah, I think Cam Rising will have a big game. We have Ole Miss and Wake Forest. Ole Miss 5th overall, Wake Forest unranked.
Ole Miss is rolling, and I don't think that stops this week. Choo-choo, the lane train's coming to town for one more week.
I think they're going to win by like 30. This should be another big blowout here. Texas and UTSA in Austin.
Yeah. Texas.
By 40.
Yeah.
Georgia, Kentucky. This is in Lexington, Kentucky, so Kentucky's got a home game here.
I want to do it. I really want to do it.
Do it. We don't have money on the line.
Kentucky gets a huge win. They have not looked good. They just got waxed last week.
Yeah.
But their quarterback's I think he's a former Georgia guy, so maybe a little bit of a revenge game here. Kentucky with a shocker.
Who'd Kentucky get waxed by?
South Carolina.
Damn right, baby. They're going in with some momentum. I'm going to say Georgia there. We've got Northern Iowa and Nebraska in Lincoln, Nebraska. I think that's a Nebraska win.
I think it's a Nebraska win. I also think that Dylan Raiola is really weird with how much he wants to be Patrick Mahomes, and
Dude,
it really kind of is creeping me out every week with the things he's doing. But he's also playing good, so why change it? I guess.
If it works, it works. But I think he'll be a really solid quarterback the rest of this year, and I think next year he'll be one of the top quarterbacks in the nation. Last game here, we've got Kent State, who's 0-2 unranked, and it's Tennessee in Tennessee.
Probably Tennessee by 50 at least.
That's what the spread is. It's 49 right now. Yeah. I think that's a no-brainer. So, all right, that's it in terms of predictions for college football. As far as a national scale, that's everything. We covered everything we wanted to. So this is the point where we make the switch over to Chicago sports talk. So feel free to hang out if you want to hear what's going on in the world of Chicago sports. But since we're on the topic of football, Sean, I think the best place to start is talking about the Bears. Do you want to recap what you found or what you noticed with week 1 with the Bears? And we can make our prediction after that. Yep.
For those who aren't watching, I'm doing a little roller coaster with my hand here. Really, really, really hyped up game for Caleb Williams in his debut, and a little disappointing there. I think maybe we can start off with that.
Yep.
Let me pull up his stats. I should have been more prepared. I'm such a bad podcaster.
I can pull them up.
I got it here. It's all good. Caleb Williams finished going 14 of 29 for 93 yards, and he was sacked twice, 5 carries for 15 yards. Not very good. Also, he didn't lose the Bears the game by any means. He had one bonehead play where he had the ball in Titans territory and tried to run around and do a circus play, and quickly learned that I probably won't be able to do that in the NFL, and took a long sack. I think it was like a 19-yard sack or something like that. So that was kind of like a welcome to the NFL moment for him. His performance would look a lot different if it were a couple things went his way. He had a nice pass to Keenan Allen on the goal line that Keenan Allen should have came down with. That would have been a touchdown, so he would have added that to his line. He missed also Keenan Allen on a deep pass that I think Caleb was maybe just a little too juiced up about. Probably could have been another touchdown there as well. But also, Keenan Allen's older. He's coming off a heel injury. He's not going to be hauling ass for a ball early in the season. But so a couple misses there that were unfortunate. But, I mean, we got to see a little bit of flashes of what he can do, too, where he had a first down throw to DJ Moore that he zipped right at the line or the line to gain. And he got the first down there that I thought was really nice. Converted, I think it was a 4th down, maybe a 3rd and long, with his feet, where he picked up the first down there to extend a drive. And I think perhaps maybe the best part of his debut was he didn't turn the ball over. So happy with that. And while I would have loved for him to go out and throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, part of me is also glad that he got to experience a little bit of adversity early on, because I think he needs that. And I think he will learn from it. And I think we'll get a better version of Caleb Williams this upcoming week. What were your thoughts on him?
Yeah, so I actually saw an interesting stat today, and I think it's something worth noting. So he had a 48.3 completion percentage, but if you adjust that and take into consideration drops and pass breakups, because we saw a lot of passes deflected at the line, that's actually 62.5%. So still not amazing, but definitely better than what the box score shows. I think we also have to consider a couple different things here. So I'm hoping to God Coleman Shelton isn't our center of the future, because he just got absolutely steamrolled all day. He looked absolutely horrendous at center.
Tevin Jenkins was bad too.
Tevin Jenkins didn't look great. They were shifting the line around a lot, which you don't see a ton during the regular season. So, Caleb Williams is getting a ton of pressure. And you also have to recognize Tennessee's defensive line. They are a lot
Good.
better than I thought. I mean, they've got Sebastian Joseph Day at left defensive end. He was amazing for the Rams. Devondre Sweat, one of the best linemen out of this year's past draft. Jeffrey Simmons, he's going to be a Pro Bowler almost every single year. Arden Key, more of like a role player, but still a pretty damn good role player. And then they've got Harold Landry too, that they throw in the mix. So their line as a whole is really impressive, and I think that's something that has to be considered here, because while the Titans as a whole are probably not going to be all that impressive this year, I think their strong point is their line. And when you mix their impressive defensive line with our weak offensive line, I think it exposed Caleb a little bit. Luckily, it's week 1. There's going to be a lot of stuff on tape he can look at with the coaching staff, improve on. Now, the hard thing is his bounce back game is going to be against the Houston Texans, who also have a very impressive defensive line. So I don't know if this week will necessarily be like his bounce back game, but I think he'll put a lot of stuff on tape where there's room for improvement. One thing that was really interesting to me, which was kind of a head scratcher here, is I noticed that Gerald Everett got more snaps than Cole Kmet. Kind of confusing there because Cole Kmet's the better tight end. Cole Kmet's also the better blocking tight end. So I don't know why that was the case.
I don't know if you listen to Cole Kmet's podcast that he does with CHGO, but I actually just listened to it today because, I take pride in podcasting and I listen to other people's just to improve my craft and stuff,
all that matters to me is my opinion.
In a very roundabout way, Cole was a little bit confused about that too. He basically just said, I felt the best I ever have going into this season. I've already shown that I'm one of the better tight ends in the league. I feel like I can take that to the next level and be one of, if not the best tight end in the NFL. And he was it sounded like a little taken aback by it, but he's also a team first guy too. So he was like, at the end of the day though, we got the win. I can control what I can control. I can prepare and be as ready as I am. But, as long as we win, I'm happy too. And he was seemed like he was a little bit confused about that too. But I think that'll change too. Maybe not this week.
I mean, I'm at the very least for blocking purposes, right? Because with Houston having Will Anderson on one side and Danielle Hunter on the other side, on the right side, that we're going to need some help with blocking tight ends and running backs and whatnot. So we might even see Roschon Johnson active this week just for blocking purposes too. But I mean, there was a lot left to be desired on the offensive side of the ball for a city that's really excited about this offense for the first time and God knows how long. They really didn't look that impressive. We're just very fortunate that the defense was as dominant as they were and managed to win the game.
I might be Darrell Taylor's biggest fan. That dude is awesome.
He's a beast, man. I can't imagine the mileage he would have put in if he wore an Apple Watch during that game. He was all over the field and just looked
flying in the backfield, playing hard every down. And this is a guy the Bears they traded I think it's a 6th round pick straight up, not conditional, for from Seattle a few weeks ago. So he never even played in the preseason, and he came in looking like that. I'm like, let's go. We might have found something here because boy, do we need edge rush help alongside Montez Sweat. But if this is any indication of what they got out of him, they might have a pretty good answer right now.
Yeah, he looked nice. Honestly, man, even if he could put on some more weight and be the size of Montez Sweat, dude, that would be ridiculous. But just want to shout out former Kane, Tyreek Stevenson, won NFC Defensive Player of the Week. He's a guy I obviously love being a Miami fan. He's looked really nice for the Bears since they've drafted him. So shout out to Tyreek for that award. I believe it was his first ever. So really cool for him.
I think he won Rookie of the Week last year or something.
It could be. Yeah. That would make sense. He had a nice rookie campaign. So, I mean, shout out to Tyreek. That was really cool for him to get that award. He's just a dog, right? You can hear how much Matt Eberflus loves Tyreek Stevenson. He talked about it in the press conference this week. So cool for him.
Speaking of corners here, Jalen Johnson, He had the game-sealing pick. He's extremely motivated this year because he was left off the NFL Top 100 list, and he backed that up in Week 1. Pro Football Focus posted this today. Jalen Johnson versus the Titans. 1 catch allowed for -2 yards, 1 interception, 1 forced incompletion, and a 2.8 passer rating allowed. So I don't know if he could have been much better than that coming out of the gates. He could have had 2 picks too, but it was incredible the fact that he even broke up the first pass. But then later on in the game to seal it, he ended up getting his interception. So good for him. He looks like he's going to be a freaking building block for this organization. So,
dude, it seems like his stats are fake stats. Like they're literally so dominant. It just seems like they're fake half the time. And I'm glad we extended him. Obviously, there seemed like there was going to be some drama there. It ended up working out just fine. But
thank God we extended him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I will say, as much as I love Tyreek, I don't know if he'd be as good as he is without Jalen, because he'd probably be asked to be the number 1 cornerback. But the two of them just work really, really, really nicely together. So shout out Jalen Johnson. Be a Bear for life, please, because you've been absolutely dominant the entire time you've been with our organization. So, all right, let's talk about Bears Texans and what to expect here. It's going to be Sunday night. Obviously, this is going to be an uphill battle for the Bears, who just barely managed to beat Tennessee in Week 1. Houston was a playoff team last year, had a shit ton of momentum. CJ Stroud looks like he could be a top 10 quarterback in the league. Could be top 5 quarterback in the league, already a top 10 quarterback in the league. So what are you feeling going into this game?
Yeah, they got Stephon Diggs this year, got Danielle Hunter, like you said. They've boosted their team coming off a playoff appearance. Bears, we're going to see what they look like here. Keenan Allen's got a heel issue still. He left the game early. Rome Odunze, we learned, sprained his MCL.
Yeah.
Week to week, day to day with him, he might not be playing, so that's going to be tough. But I'll tell you what, Kevin. I will tell you what. Here's my scorching hot take of this podcast episode. The Bears are going to win this game on Sunday night. Jesus. And now, here's my thinking of this. Even if Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze don't play, guys like Caleb Williams, they come around once in a while. You know, they're labeled as generational prospects, generational players. We don't really get to see him too much. Now, this is me thinking he's going to be as good as he's supposed to be. And I'm just going to do that for this exercise. If there's anything Caleb Williams is going to take from last week's game, he's going to say, holy shit, I never want to play that bad again. That was embarrassing. That's probably what he's thinking to himself right now. He will use that as motivation to come out Sunday night and announce his entrance in the NFL to the world. I think Caleb Williams is going to have a really big game on Sunday night, and I think the Bears are going to win. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised that I'm saying that the Bears are going to win, but you know what? I think we're going to do it, and I think when you put a guy like Caleb Williams and the type of prospect that he is in the spotlight, I think he's going to shine, and I think the world's going to get to see, like, holy crap, the Bears actually have a quarterback. So I'm all in on Caleb this week. I think he's going to do great things, and I think the Bears are going to freaking do it, baby.
No, well, God, I hope you're right. What do you think they're going to win by?
I will say they win by 10.
Jesus. Okay. I think it's a close game. I've got Houston by 7. I think it's going to be one of those games where Caleb Williams, he's got a couple touchdowns, but I also think he makes a mistake because, I mean, to be honest with you, like, he's a playmaker, but he does mix in some pretty risky throws from time to time. So I think his stat line will be something like 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and also 1 rushing touchdown. I think he'll have a pretty nice game. Dude, the Texans offense just meshes so well together. Joe Mixon looked awesome week 1. They've got Stephon Diggs now. They also have Robert Woods, which people forget about. Nico Collins looks awesome. Tank Dell looks great. Dalton Schultz, I don't know if he'll play. Brevin Jordan's their backup tight end. And they've got Cade Stover from Ohio State, who CJ Stroud played with. And then the defensive ends that we already talked about. So if this game was in Chicago, I think I could get down with you and pick the Bears, but I think with this game being in Houston, I'm going to take the Texans by a touchdown. I'll just call it like 27 to, well, if there's going to be 3 touchdowns, I can't do that. So let's call it 35-28 Houston. And
it's a shame.
Honestly, I think it'd be good for us even if we kept it within a touchdown.
Yeah, I agree. I'm in all seriousness, I'm just hoping for a good game. Like that's really all I can ask for. They are going to be wearing orange though, so that'll be cool.
Yeah, I saw that. I think Houston's wearing all white too, so uniforms should be sweet for both teams. All right, that's it for Bears talk. Let's dive into the White Sox, and talk about what's going on there. This is pretty much right now for the Sox. It's pretty much prospect talk. That's really all it is. We're going to beat the record for the most losses in the season. That's all that needs to be said. Sean, do you want to dive into what you've seen from a couple prospects so far that stuck out to you?
Yeah, so lately the White Sox have been calling up their pitching prospects, and I'm trying to get some stats here. That was the day before. Sorry. So we've got Jairo Iriarte, who made the jump from Double A. He's a guy we've mentioned a little bit here, and he's looked pretty good so far. I think went for a guy that, like I said, is making the jump from Double A to the MLB. He's 22 years old. On the season, he's gone 2.2 innings, has given up 1 hit, 1 earned run. He has 6 walks and 4 strikeouts, so the walks aren't great, but opponents are just hitting 111 against him, so that's been pretty good. He was a starter for the Barons, but the White Sox are working him out of the bullpen the rest of the way, just giving him 1 inning at a time, so nice to see him kind of taking advantage of that.
He throws heat too, doesn't he? He throws pretty hard.
Yeah, and then so yesterday too, the White Sox called up Sean Burke from Charlotte, and he had a good little outing. He went 3 innings against the Cleveland Guardians, gave up 3 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts. So starting to see some of these guys finally make their way up and get a little shot here in the MLB. Obviously, the Lenyn Sosas of the world have been with this team and playing with this team for a while. So it's nice to get some fresh faces. I don't know how much more we will get in terms of prospects, but I think one guy that we can at least talk about specifically is Colson Montgomery. He's the top prospect in the White Sox org. All in all, he struggled this year at Charlotte, but lately he's been playing really well. So over his last 19 games entering Tuesday, he's slashing 280, 353, 480 with 21 hits, 3 doubles, 4 home runs, and 9 RBIs. So he's kind of finishing pretty strong here for Charlotte. Do you feel like the White Sox should give him a shot at the end of the season here? Do you think he should just finish out in Charlotte and try again next year? What are your thoughts with Mr. Colson?
Dude, when I think about Colson Montgomery's season, I think about that Undertaker gif where he's laying in the coffin and he's dead, and then all of a sudden he rises up. That's kind of been Colson Montgomery's year. Is like a lot of this year he struggled more than he ever has in his career, but as of late he's just been on an absolute tear. I like the consistency I've seen from him lately, and so with that being said, I think he should finish the year in AAA. Keep his confidence high, because my concern is if he comes up to the big club, if he comes up to the White Sox and struggles again, then that could affect his confidence. So I'd keep him in AAA. I'd give him a lot of time in spring training though, and like to be around the pros, to work wherever in the field he needs to. But for now, I'd keep him in AAA.
I agree with you there. I think just overall big picture, it's been kind of tough for him this year, and I don't want to put any more pressure on the kid to end the year. Let him just finish out strong. Let him play in Charlotte. And I think maybe next year we're probably looking at a guy that could break camp with the team. So we don't really have any options at shortstop right now. Paul DeYoung was our starting shortstop to enter the year, and and he's gone. So obviously that leaves a hole and an opportunity for Colson Montgomery to take it if he gets off to a strong spring. So yeah, I think I agree with you there. Just leave him down, and we'll see where he's at next year. But another prospect to talk about before I want to add one final White Sox thing that came up today. Our first round pick, Hagen Smith, he's done. He made 3 starts with the Winston-Salem Dash, and they were 3 inning starts. That was the plan with him heading into the year. So he went 7.2 innings, allowed 3 runs on 7 hits, had 2 walks and 7 strikeouts, which is a 3.52 ERA. So all things considered, not too bad. You know, he had a lot of time off from playing at Arkansas to getting drafted to now playing in the White Sox organization. I know he had gotten hit around a little bit in his last few starts, but, had more strikeouts than walks, and you'll take that from a guy who's probably going to be your number 1 starter like next year. So
yeah. Oh, and I think like his life leading up to draft night was a roller coaster too. You know what I mean? Like finishing playing college baseball.
Yeah,
lead up to the draft.
Going from a great program like Arkansas to a shitty organization like the White Sox is a roller coaster indeed.
I think Arkansas could actually beat us in all honesty, but
Maybe.
I think a 3.5 ERA is totally fine by me.
First taste of pro ball too, right? Like
yeah. He's had a busy life. I'm sure he's probably living out of hotels right now too. So
yeah,
that's fine. I'm good with it. I think he'll be a really nice pitcher for us in the future. We just need to get some we need to get some position players now, because it seems like all our good prospects are just pitchers. So
yeah. Well, if the other team doesn't score, you can still win, but that means you got to score too.
Yeah. We just need to get hit 4 times in a row, and then we can have our 1 run each game. But
I was just joking around watching the White Sox the other day. They were down it was like one of 11 to something, and I was sitting on the couch, and I was like, I was sitting here with my girlfriend Michaela, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, this is ugly." And I was like, "What are you talking about? The object of the game is to score the least. It's like golf."
That's the way they've approached this year.
Yeah.
They're the best golfer in baseball.
Yeah, gosh.
But yeah, I think Hagen Smith will be fine. Honestly, I would love, if he gets a start in spring training, I'd love to go see him. So hopefully
he should. I think he'll be up on the team next year. I think they'll get him a couple starts in spring, I would guess.
Yeah, I think so too.
But speaking of the season, I don't know if you saw this or not, but I'll read it if you didn't. Fat old man Jerry Reinsdorf spoke today. He issued a statement, and I'll read it here for our loyal listeners, where Jerry Reinsdorf said, "Everyone in this organization is extremely unhappy with the results of this season. That goes without saying. This year has been very painful for all, especially our fans. We did not arrive here overnight, and solutions won't happen overnight either." Remind me to go back to that point. "Going back to last year, we have made difficult decisions and changes to begin building a foundation for future success. What has impressed me is how our players and staff have continued to work and bring a professional attitude to the ballpark each day, despite a historically difficult season. No one is happy with the results, but I commend the continued effort. I expect to have more to say at the end of the season." Your thoughts on that?
Unless you're saying that you're selling the team, I could give 2 shits what you have to say at the end of the season.
That was the first thought I had. I was like, that'd be amazing. He talked about how this success wasn't going to happen overnight, but in his press conference when he fired Hahn and Kenny, he talked about how he needs to look internally so this can be a quick turnaround. So we're getting 2 completely contradictory statements from our old fat loser of an owner within not even a full season. But I don't know. Hey, maybe he's going to fire Chris Getz. I'd be shocked, but that's like really the only other thing I could see him doing. Unless he sells the team, then I will fly to Chicago. I will kiss the ground outside of the park and fly.
We will do an emergency podcast. I can guarantee you that. We'll do an emergency podcast if he sells the team. I would be shocked if that was the case. But, maybe having the most losses in a single season is I guess what had to happen for, the last straw with him for somebody who cares about winning so much.
That's been my big thing. I was hoping they would set the losing streak record, and I've I've accepted that they're probably going to set the actual worst record. And my big reasoning for that was I hope he gets all the embarrassment that he possibly can, and maybe it's enough to actually drive him to realize, like, maybe I can't do this anymore.
Well, it's people outside of Chicago starting to realize, too. I've heard some Barstool people mention, Jerry Reinsdorf and how embarrassing of an owner he is. You know what amazes me in this season is two things. One,
what amazes you, Kevin? Tell me.
One, we had an all-star. To have 120 plus losses and have an all-star is impressive. Two, me and you attended a game that they actually won. Honestly, it might have been their best game they played all season. I was looking at
one of them.
I was looking at the total wins, and it was like 33, and I'm like, holy shit. When you actually think about that, the chances of a White Sox fan attending a winning game this year has got to be such a small percentage, and the fact that we did.
And a road game, too.
Yeah, right. With a team who was in the World Series last year. So, I hope Jerry Reinsdorf sells the team, and that's what that he's kind of like hinting at. I don't trust that that's going to happen.
No, I don't. I think he will outlive all of us, and this will be the sad state of the White Sox for quite some time. So,
yep. Do you want to talk about his other team that he owns, the Bulls? They made a couple smaller moves. Do you want to highlight those?
Yeah. So the Bulls signed Taylor Horton Tucker and E.J. Liddell. They're both two Chicago natives, which I laugh because this is a trend that they've had recently, where I'm pulling up their roster here. I don't know if it'll be up to date. So they also have on the roster. Wow, their roster is really weird. Oh, he is on there. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out how to read this freaking thing. It's like a puzzle. This is where all the money goes to.
I see it now. Yeah.
So this is like the fifth like Chicago native that we have. So we also have Io DeSumo on the team, Matas Buzelis on the team. We have DJ Stewart on the team. He's a Chicago native, and now that's EJ Liddell and Taylor Horton Tucker, and I might even be missing one or two. So the team's gonna suck, but you know what? At least we'll suck with our guys. I guess is the mentality that they're taking into the year. So yeah. But, I mean, hey, like, for depth pieces, it's not terrible, but it doesn't move the needle at all.
Honestly, Taylor Horton Tucker is a nice depth piece. He averaged over 10 points a game last season. So he was a nice depth move. I can get down with that. E.J. Liddell had less than a point per game, so that is what it is. But, roster is really weird. To people who aren't Bulls fans, some of the big names on our roster, Lonzo Ball, Matas Buzelis, let's see, Javon Carter is a role player, Io DeSumo, Josh Giddey, Zach LaVine, please be gone soon, Adama Sanogo for you UConn fans. We've got Nikola Vucevic, which hopefully he's gone soon, Kobe White, and Patrick Williams. So just a really weird bunch of dudes on this roster this year. And I think once Zach is gone and hopefully Vooch, I think that this could make for a really entertaining team to watch, just to see like all the young guys go and ball out on a nightly basis. You just have to hope that, they're actually traded soon.
And then you got to hope you get Cooper Flagg.
That I wouldn't hate that at all. If that's what it takes, man, I'm fine with that.
The Bulls are a team where like they'll lose most nights, but they'll have a couple of those nights where they just light the world on fire, and you're like, this is the most entertaining team I've ever seen in my life. And then they'll go back to like losing by like 30 the next night. It's just going to be all over the place.
Yeah. They'll be the team to like beat the Celtics by 15 and then lose to like Charlotte.
On national TV too, where everyone's like, oh my God, are the Bulls back?
Yeah. Just lose to like a really, really horrendous team by like 30. All right. Well, that's it for Bulls talk. Sean, I did want to highlight something. This is a player you've been following all year. Some unfortunate news. Wanted to get your thoughts on it. Angel Reese was just announced that she is out for the remainder of this season. I don't know if you saw the news, and if you did, what's your reaction to that?
Did I see the news? Come on, dude.
Did you drop the news?
I released it. Yeah. Yeah. You didn't see me in the back of that podcast she recorded where she announced it.
I guess not.
It sucks for the Sky just because she's had a pretty exciting rookie year. She averaged 13 and 13, shot 40% from the field, or from, or no, that's from two. What's her actual field? 39% from the field, which not very good, but averaged a double-double, set multiple records. So really exciting rookie year for her. Caitlin Clark was probably going to win Rookie of the Year, but she made it interesting. Now, definitely no shot that she wins it with her being out. But, it's next woman up mentality, so it opens up more opportunities for Camila Cardoso, who's been playing a little bit better too. So excited to see what, she'll look like when they're able to run a little bit more of the offense through her and all that stuff. So unfortunate the Sky losing one of their more exciting players, but gives opportunity to others to step up in her absence. So they're currently a playoff team. We'll see if that sticks.
Yeah. I mean, they're sixth worst team in the WNBA right now. So I don't think they'll get worse than the Sparks or the Wings. Sparks are 7-29. Dallas Wings are 9-27.
Even if they get worse than the Wings, they have a pick swap with them. So our pick would go to the Dallas in that case.
Got it. So, it seems like right now they'll probably end up with like 5th or 6th overall pick. So they'll continue to go young, put nice pieces together. And honestly, they've already started doing that. So
they got 2 first-round picks this year, too, because they got the Connecticut Sun draft pick, too.
Yeah. So that'll be a bottom 3 pick because they're looking pretty good. So, all right, y'all. Well, that's it. That's the recap for this week. Thank you for staying patient with us among us being out of town and out of office for a bit. So we appreciate that. But make sure to follow, share, message us if you want us to talk about anything in particular. But that's a wrap for this week. Thank you again for tuning in, and we will talk to y'all next week.